My name is Beverly Mack. I'm a professor of African Studies at the Department of African and African American Studies here at KU. And I teach courses on Islam, women in Islam, African literature. My PhD is in African literature, but my research has been with Muslim women for the past 25 years. Right. Well, a lot of Introduction to Islam texts go through the pillars of Islam and the precepts of faith and those sorts of things. But I think the two most important things to know about Islam, which I explain to my students in my introductory classes, have to do with the ideal of equality and with the importance of the pursuit of knowledge. So one of the radical notions about Islam in the 7th century was that it promoted equality among all people. In the 7th century, the idea that all men were equal, much less women being equal, was an extremely radical notion that brought a lot of conflict to Muhammad, and he received death threats. I mean, in some ways, Islam was the first democracy. This was an ideal. It didn't actually happen immediately or even eventually, because it's, I guess, a bit against the grain of human nature. Women in particular at that time were totally without rights. I always say to my students, they had the rights of a chair to be bought and sold and disposed of as anyone wanted. So for Muhammad to transmit the notion of Islam promoting equality among all people, regardless of gender or race or ethnicity or height or weight or family relations, tribal affiliations, this was an outrageous notion to people who had a lot to lose. So this idea of equality is a foundational precept in Islam. The other notion, the importance of the pursuit of education, pursuit of knowledge is the way I should put it, comes from the very first revelation, in which the angel Gabriel commanded that Muhammad read and recite. The angel said, "Iqra," read and recite in the name of your God who created you, who taught you the use of the pen. Well, Muhammad didn't have the use of the pen. He was not literate, although he was very intelligent. He had numeracy, but not literacy. So this was difficult for him to understand. But the idea of pursuing knowledge is tied to spirituality on the basis of the idea that God created all the known universe. And diversity in the known universe is a sign of God's mercy and generosity. So the more that you can know about any particular thing, then the closer you can become to God. So the idea of pursuing knowledge is something that is basic to the notion of being a good Muslim. This whole 21st century notion that in Islam women don't get a chance to be educated is totally apart from what Islam in the ideal likes to foster. And the notion that women should not be educated may be a cultural, paternalistic notion, but it is not tied to the ideal of Islam.